Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. It has been a long time since I've made a video with all my plans lately. But now that I'm back, let's talk weather. That's why I'm here. Let's take a look at the remnants of Hurricane Beryl here as they move up the Northeast and Ohio Valley this morning, bringing several loads of heavy rainfall to some areas there. And some areas are even seeing some spin-up tornadoes on the eastern and perhaps southern side of the system, while we have the wraparound flow behind that is causing gusty winds in portions of the Ohio region there. But let's put this into motion here and see where this goes. By the time we go into this evening, 5 p.m., this is kind of like a cold front setup here. This is kind of forming its own cold front at this point with some wraparound moisture behind that, some cooler, perhaps some showerier air there, maybe some gustier winds at times. But these storms could potentially be a little bit on the stronger side, maybe with some gusty winds, maybe a few tornadoes. I can't rule that out either, so we're going to need to keep our eyes on that. And then by the time we go into the overnight hours, this whole thing begins to finally move off to the northeast. People have been talking about Beryl for many days and weeks now. And I'm so glad it's over. I actually experienced it in the Yucatan this past week, and it was my first and probably last ever hurricane, to be honest with you guys. So go check out my video. I'll pin it in my description down below. I'll have it posted later of me surveying damage. So make sure you watch that later on here. But for now, let's continue talking about the weather here, our current weather here, as the remnants of Beryl begin to move into the northeast overnight tonight. Tornado threat and heavy rain threat is going to gradually wane, and then it's just basically going to be a batch of rain at this point with no direct impacts. But let's take a look at our total precipitation trends and totals as we head in towards this evening. Just this afternoon, we could expect a pretty good periphery zone in the northeast and southern Ontario of up to 5 inches of rainfall. And the 5 inches of rain are more associated in the interior New England region and perhaps upstate New York. But you could see that we will likely have upwards of a widespread swath of 1 to 4 inches of rainfall there. So there is a concern for flash flooding here, but as it moves into this region, notice how the precipitation totals cut off. It is basically just going to be just a shield of rain at this point, or a rain shield, if you will, instead of rather tornadic producing thunderstorms as well as heavy rain producing thunderstorms. But the next thing I wanted to take a look at is the significant tornado parameter here. And you can see as I zoom in on the Rochester, New York region, you can see there that there is a pretty good chance there of seeing perhaps a isolated strong tornado perhaps. This would be the focus region for a very strong tornado this afternoon, likely around 3 or 4 p.m. And then as we go into the evening, all those parameters move up into the northeast and they gradually weaken, like I said before, basically turning into a heavy rain and flood threat at that point. And I mentioned gusty winds on the earlier part of this video. So let's take a look at our wind gusts here as that cold front sets up stage here. It is likely going to be pulling in some pretty cooler, more gustier winds as we go in towards this afternoon. We could see gusts as high as maybe about 40 up to 40 miles per hour in these areas. And we could also see perhaps gusts up to 30 miles per hour there in the eastern PA, eastern New York region. And we might even see some isolated 50 mile per hour gusts up here in the eastern Michigan region. We're just going to need to watch to see where that main periphery of the gusty wind goes. However, our peak wind gusts are likely going to take place this afternoon. Like I said, some isolated 50-mile-per-hour winds not out of the question there. But this is all behind the cold front, guys. So once the cold front comes through, you're likely going to get that thunderstorm activity, but then you're going to feel a lot cooler air outside, and the wind is likely going to really pick up in intensity, probably to about 30 or 40 miles per hour, like I said before, and that will likely continue in towards tomorrow morning from the lingering low that is basically lacking behind that heavy rainfall there. That is probably the reason that we're likely going to see that tornado threat really breaking down as it moves into the northeast tomorrow morning. And alright friends, now that we're done finally talking about Beryl, let's take a more long-term look at what we can expect here over the course of the next week or so here. But as I'm circling this here, notice this is the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. This is post-tropical depression Hurricane Beryl. And notice we have another wave trying to develop just off the coast of Florida. And the National Hurricane Center is seeing that. And I'll show you guys that later in the video here. But notice as we go in towards tomorrow morning, notice that we have a lot of scattered shower and thunderstorm activity here. And we have the remnants of Beryl up here. Probably some heavy rain bands with that. Like I said, flooding is going to be a threat. However, that tornado threat is likely going to be very, very, very drastically much lower than it has been recently as we go into that time frame. Once we go into this weekend, though, we see our next storm system taking shape here. And this is kind of the pattern where you would expect to see storms riding up and over the ridge. And this seems to be the case. As complexes of storms ride down the ridge and potentially cause some wind damage for a widespread duration. That would potentially cause a derecho, but it's too early to point that out right now, and then we get more rounds of storms and showers as we head in towards Monday the 15th. And then as we go into Tuesday the 16th, we have yet another shot of energy here, potentially with a lot of scattered about moisture, maybe with some showers and maybe even some thunderstorms. And down here in the Gulf, we're probably going to start seeing some activity starting to ramp up again, which we will need to watch in the next coming days. But as you can see, as we take it in towards Wednesday the 17th, it seems that we're likely going to get our next low pressure system with a cold frontal setup. So this is not really going to be a ridge riding situation here, I don't think. Depending on how early that or late that high pressure system departs, that will contribute to what this system does. All right, right now this is showing we could have potentially some stronger storms ahead of that, and maybe with some heavy rainfall. But it's too early to determine where is going to get the impacts and basically how bad that threat is going to be. So we can't nail down any specific details, and as you can see here, up to 240 hours out, things become very uncertain. However, these models do show that we do get a lot of tropical activity down in the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic Basin. And taking a better look at where your troughs and ridging is, here's a look at our 500 millibar height anomalies here. And you can see here are the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. This is that low pressure system that's looming there, lacking behind the heavy rainfall. And notice how it just sits there all day through tomorrow. That is why we could potentially have gusty winds in these regions all the way through tomorrow afternoon. While we do see a high pressure system setting up stage over here in the west coast of the United States, that is likely going to begin trying to form a northwest flow. And notice how it becomes very well defined as we go in towards Monday the 15th. Look at that. Look at how expansive this ridge is here. And notice the flow over top of the ridge. This could serve that storm complex potential up and down the ridge, including the potential for a few derechos So we're going to need to watch that closely. But the areas that are getting dominated by this high pressure ridge, it's going to be a very hot one because we could potentially see temperatures soaring into the mid-hundreds over here in the portions of Death Valley there. We might even see temperatures as high as 130 degrees at times, and we might begin to break records. So we're going to need to keep all eyes on that. But regardless, all the precipitation you saw on Monday the 15th is not driven off of a trough. It's driven off of this ridge, and they're, like I said, they're going up and then down the ridge with that northwest flow. And like I said, who gets it and how bad it is very uncertain right now, but I can tell you this is a big area I'm going to need to be watching for these next weeks or so. All right, and that derecho potential will be highest in that region as well. But as we go into Tuesday, the 16th, notice that we get a shortwave finally to become present from Canada, positively tilted as of right now. As a high pressure ridge moves eastward, we still have a even stronger northwest flow over top the ridge. That could serve even more storm complexes up and down the ridge. So I am highly concerned for these areas here in the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes into the mid-Atlantic next week. So make sure you stay tuned for further updates because I will be posting frequently this week since I haven't been recently. But as we go on to Thursday the 18th, that system moves out, and then we get yet another high pressure ridge that potentially gets another northwest flow going there. However, we might have some cooler air than average over here, which could potentially make it a bit comfortable over the northeast. And then as we go into 240 hours out from now, things become highly uncertain. However, it does seem that this high pressure ridge will definitely stick around, potentially with it dominant east of the area, potentially as we go in towards mid to late July. And I want to zoom in and take a closer look at the very hot temperatures that we will have in the desert southwest here. As you can see already, like this morning, like around 8-9 a.m., we were already in the mid and upper 80s and even some mid 90s there in the portions of the Death Valley region there. But look at these temperatures this afternoon. Like this afternoon, like around 2-3 p.m., we could be pushing 110 degrees potentially in these pinker, redder shades of that region right there. And we could definitely see that happening there. So please make sure you hydrate. But look at these temperatures as we go into this evening, guys. This is definitely a record-breaking scenario here. As you can see, we could have some 120s here. Look at that. We have 120 right here in Southern California. And we have one in Eastern California. And we have even 115 there in southeastern Nevada. So it's going to be very hot down here in these next couple days here. And look at these temperatures as we go into tomorrow evening. All right, look at this. The 120-degree temperatures are becoming more expansive. All right, where these greens are, that is where your 120-plus degree temperatures are. So it could get significantly hot over here in these regions. But thankfully, we have heat and humidity. And thankfully, we don't have a lack of humidity because that would start up wildfire potential. But no need to worry about that. But look at these temperatures as we go into Friday evening as well. Not as expansive as the 120 degrees are tomorrow and today. However, the 115s are still very much visible there in a lot of triple digits there. And then we finally get to calm down on the 120 degree temperatures. However, I am still seeing that we could potentially have some areas that may exceed 110 degrees as we go in towards the weekend here. And then finally, as we go into early next week, we're finally going to potentially not get out of the 115 degree territory. That is great news. We will likely not soar above that, but we will likely have even just a little bit of relief here because of those very, very sizzling hot temperatures. We will likely get some relief from that, and then we should probably start to see this backing off as we go in towards this time frame. But like I said, that high pressure system is going to be super duper expansive over this entire region over the coming days. And then 240 hours out, it does seem we do get the 120 degree temperatures back. However, that is still to be determined as of right now. But now let's take a look at the whole United States temperature-wise over the course of the next week or so here. You can see tomorrow afternoon's high temperatures here. You can see a lot of 80s and 90s here. I'm circling these areas that are above 90 degrees. And over here, anywhere north of that line or that circle I just drew is going to potentially get some relief here, like these areas right here that will likely have that low passing through. And then we go into Friday the 12th. You can see the 90 degree temperatures are a bit more expansive than they have been these past couple days. So could start getting hot for areas of the central portion of the United States as well as the eastern portion of the United States here. Take it for example as we head into the weekend. That high pressure ridge is bringing a ton of 90s and triple digits. We discussed the triple digits down here. We are already going to probably see some triple digits in the southeast though as we go in towards this weekend. That is certainly a huge possibility there. But as we head into Sunday the 14th, it seems that we will likely get a huge periphery of 90 to 100 degree temperatures all the way from the northwest all the way back into the mid-Atlantic region. And obviously you can't disclude the Pacific Southwest there. That's obviously very significant. But as we head into Monday the 15th, notice that all of this hot air is moving eastward, and this is where that high pressure is going to be stationed. Like I said, that's going to be where that northwest flow is with those storm complexes and whatnot. But we're not going to talk about that right now because we're talking about temperatures here. But you can see, look at these triple digits over here in the Carolinas and Virginia, even up and down the eastern seaboard. And look at these temperatures in the plain states. Like, we could potentially be exceeding 105 degrees in some areas, depending on how much sunshine we get. Other areas in that brownish color are likely going to exceed 90, but we will likely see some 100 degree temperatures pretty widespread across the country in the next week. To definitely say the least here, this is definitely your 90 degree periphery line here, maybe even a bit further east than that there. Those high 80s may become low 90s, depending on what happens here. But as we go in towards Wednesday, the 17th, high pressure begins to move east. Northwest flow over top the ridge, continuing with that storm track. So we will likely keep all of the desertly hot temperatures down here in the central and southern part and eastern part of the country. Rather than up here in the northern plains, we're likely going to get a bit of relief. However, like I said, that does mean we will likely that will likely come with storm chances, especially in these regions. Like I said, I circled those before, but it's definitely going to be a concerning pattern as we head into next week. And then as we go in towards the 240-hour time frame, things do seem to back off. However, I am still seeing the triple digits and 90s in the south central United States as well as the western United States as of right now. Alright guys, now we're going to go back to talking about this northwest flow pattern here. Better taking a look at it with our mid-level jet here. As you can see, by the time we go into the weekend, there's your high pressure system. You can see the clockwise flow, and then you can see the northwest flow over top of that ridge there. Then as we go into Monday the 15th, that still continues, that high pressure ridge, northwest flow over the ridge doing that. Storm complex potential there. And that will likely be in this corridor right here for Monday the 15th. And then as we go in towards Tuesday the 16th, the main corridor as that high pressure system moves eastward will likely be here as we go into Tuesday. So severe weather chances, maybe even an MCS or derecho chance is possible as we head into that time frame. And then it seems that the weather pattern will potentially calm down, potentially with all sorts of disturbances potentially affecting portions of the United States, creating their own severe weather events. For example, these little divots right here, that could potentially cause some severe weather for the Northeast, but that is obviously too early to be determined right now since this is 240 hours out. But just know that we will likely be going into a very active weather pattern into this week. Alright friends, now that we're done talking about our basically United States weather, now let's talk about what's going on in the tropics here. The National Hurricane Center has this little area of interest here, which is has a 10% chance of development over the next 2 to 7 days here. And you can see, taking a better look at that with this European model, you can see there's going to be a little bit of a wave that goes off the coast of Florida pretty much as we go in towards later on today into tomorrow. And that could potentially spin something up. It is very unlikely, but that could potentially spin a little bit of a depression or something up perhaps. But the main thing is when we go into tomorrow morning and afternoon specifically, I don't know if you guys saw that, but intense bands of rainfall here. That could potentially go into something tropical. And obviously you guys know that our water temperatures are like bath water here. And we have a ton of moisture as well as a lack of wind shear somewhat. That's probably going to keep things limited. However, I do see something developing potentially within this corridor. However, we will have to see what the National Hurricane Center thinks on this over the course of the next few hours in towards tomorrow. But that's not the only thing, because we will have numerous other tropical waves trying to make appearances here, and those could potentially become somewhat tropical. So we're going to need to watch that closely, especially on the 14th here. We're going to need to watch that. Maybe this is the area where they're hinting on. Well, maybe there's two areas they're hinting on, because it said 10% for 2-day and 10% for 7-day. So that could potentially, they could potentially be hinting on probably two storm systems that could potentially get going here. Again, it's just a 10% chance of right now, so nothing to lose sleep over. We will just have to continue to monitor trends over the course of the next 7 days. Alright guys, that was all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're not already. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Stay safe out there.